Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of STATURDAY Chat Live. It is good to see you. Good to have you here. So we'll wait a few minutes, see a few more people come into the stream. A couple of other items. Next week, there will be no stream. It is Labor Day here in the United States. So it's like a long weekend. So I'm going to take that weekend off everything and just kind of do some R&R, work on some more video content and stuff like that. Plus, a lot of people, at least here in the US, are taking trips or spending time with family, whatever else it might be. So next week, no live stream, but we will be back the next week, which is unfortunately September 11th. But that is the date for that Saturday. So we'll be back on the 11th. So we'll see you then. A couple of other things. I'm finishing up a video right now. Hopefully today when I leave here, I'm going to leave the house, go up and do some final work on it, and then have it recorded and to you early next week. Maybe Monday or Tuesday, something like that, just to make sure everything is in place. So there's some new content coming up. Let me go back to the comments here. So yes, if you have any comments, questions, or whatever, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will get to them as soon as I can. And we're going to keep this to about 30 minutes or so, depending on how the conversation goes, how the questions and everything goes. So yeah, that's the general pattern for these live streams. If you are someone who is going back to school or is back at school this fall, I want to say kudos to you and wish you all the best in this new semester. A lot of the challenges, obviously, right now between just COVID and everything else that's still going on. So hang in there, hang tough, and get your studies going and focus on that the best you can. And of course, people like me will be here to help you the best we can. So I just wanted to mention that to all the students and stuff that are going back to school. Always the best time of the year for me. I was one of the crazy kids that was like, yes, school is starting again. I can't wait to go back. You know, I can still smell like school. Like at least here, schools kind of have a smell to them, and I can still smell it. So yeah, so you can drop any questions in the chat you want. I'll do my best to answer them. So yeah, so what else is going on? Have some new ideas for some video content, coming up the next few months while everyone is in school. I might change direction a little bit, versus what I'm doing now. I think the video that I'm going to release today might be the last video on multiple regression, at least for a while. I always can come back to multiple regression because there's just so much you can do. So I might come back to that, but I might change direction and pivot to do a little bit something different on the next series of videos. So we shall see how that goes. I also apologize for my very informal appearance today. It is extremely hot and extremely humid here where I am in the U.S. It's like feels like a tropical rainforest outside. So it is very hot, and I don't like to change clothes multiple times a day. So that's why I look like I do with a tank top on, but it's just because it's very, very, very hot. So what else is going on? So I have been looking at a book. I mentioned this last live stream. I do recommend it to everyone. Again, this is not a sponsored or a plug or anything like that, but this is the ML with Python for Everyone book. I really enjoy it. I have been reading it cover to cover, and I am at the last 2 chapters. So I've read 400 and something pages of this book over the past couple of weeks. It's really good. The author does kind of go on some weird tangents every now and then, but the core content of like understanding what's going on is good. So if you can find something like this, I do appreciate that. Also, last week, someone asked, or last 2 weeks ago, someone asked about a good book for multivariate stats. And the one I use, I actually got a newer edition of it. I have an older edition. Is the Tabachnik, this one right here. So if you really want to get into multivariate stats, this is a very good book in terms of how it's written. Again, I have an older version I used when I was doing some tutoring years ago. So this is an updated one. And yeah, so if you like to learn more about multivariate stats, that is good. And another one I like to use, again, I have an older edition, but I got a newer edition, is this Explaining Psychological Stats book. Again, I like how it's written. I like the examples. How it's explained is very clear, very, very concise. So I do recommend that one as well. So Explaining Psychological Stats, that's Cohen. And then Tabachnik, that is the Multivariate book that I really like. And then, yeah, this ML with Python book is really good. That's what I'm reading now, and I have several more to go. So, yeah. So what questions, comments do you have in the stream? I'd be happy to answer them sort of the best I can, depending on time and everything else. So I'm going to grab a drink of water because, like I said, it is hot. Very, very, very hot and humid here. So where I'm thinking about going, and maybe you can chime in here or on the chat or in LinkedIn, whatever else it might be, after this multiple regression playlist, I think this next video I might go in the direction of time series. I might go in the direction of design of experiments, or I might go the direction of machine learning, teaching it in my own way, which I think is a unique way of sort of teaching it. So that is my goal, to see, what you all want. I'm gonna look through some comments. I'm gonna look through some comments here, but also on YouTube as well to see where we want to go sort of next. All right. So while I mentioned earlier that school is starting, I do want to take a minute to talk about what I think is really important for students who are maybe doing stats for the first time or are getting into that side of it when they've been maybe in a computer sciencey type background or something like that. So I did a short video on this before, but this is a good time to sort of elucidate what I think is valuable. So the first thing I really think is important is to realize that in many ways, stats is sort of a math type class, and you get better just by doing it, So it just takes practice. So you just need to go in and try the problems, look at the feedback, see maybe what you did wrong, just practice, practice, practice. Second thing is that you don't need a whole lot of math for intro stats, like basic algebra is good enough. So if you haven't had that in a few years, you can brush yourself up on some basic algebra, like, linear equations and stuff like that. That's really all you need for intro stats. Obviously, there's a lot of software usage nowadays in stats, and it can vary. Excel is the most commonly used program, even though it's not a stats software. It's not stats software. It's kind of like you kind of have to contort Excel to do stats. It has a data analysis tool pack, but that's not really a stat software. It just does some basic stuff. But Excel obviously is a good place to start, and you can branch out there to other stat software packages. So on the open source side, you have R and Python if you want to get into that. Of course, on the paid proprietary side, you have things like Jump and SPSS and Minitab, and there's some other ones. So yeah, so get comfortable with the software and obviously learn how to interpret whatever that software is providing you is another thing. So just hang in there if you are doing stats for the first time. And of course, you can refer to my channel if you need any help. Other channels like StatQuest are obviously really good, and there are many, many others that are really, really good. So let's see here. Comments. Hello. Good to see you. Round G says ML and time series, please. I'll probably have to pick one of the two. So as I've always said, YouTube is not my full-time job in the least at all. I have 3 jobs, and YouTube is sort of near the bottom of the income sort of thing. So I kind of have to prioritize what I do, and I'll have to pick one of those 2 things. So yeah, we will see which direction I go. But yes, let's see. Hello, Prashant. I think I said that right. Very good to see you, my friend. As videos for casino game stats. I think I've indirectly done some casino type problems and concepts and like the probability playlist I did and stuff like that. But that's really about probability and expected value, of course. So in casino games, the probabilities for certain events over the long run are fairly fixed. The way they win all the time is through the rules and the payouts and the buy-ins, right? So if a casino didn't win in the long run in every game, they go to business. So it's actually designed for them to win, either through payouts or whatever else. So it's actually very interesting, though. All right. Let's see here. Hi, Brandon. I'm in the beginning of my PhD program. I don't really understand about quantitative research at all. Right now, I'm in finance study. Could you give me some advice about quantitative and econometrics? So that's a very, very big question. Um, if you are new to quantitative sort of analysis, obviously the best place to start is just a basic course in quantitative methods that you can take as part of your course, as part of your PhD program. A lot of people do that. Even people who have had quantitative work in the past still take like an intro or maybe a second tier quantitative research type class to understand, what statistical tests are, what questions they're designed to answer, and sort of things like that. So that's obviously a place you can start within your program, of course. And then there are obviously a mountain of resources online that can help you with that, whether it's on YouTube or a Coursera or Udemy or whatever else that can get you going in sort of quantitative methods. But I will say that quantitative thinking is a specific type of thinking that's very operationalized, that looks at inputs and outputs. If you're talking statistics, you're making inferences. You have to be able to understand what an inference actually is and what it isn't. And obviously as you get through to regression, of course, and then if you're going into kind of metrics, that will be heavily regression and time series. You can understand what predictions and things like that you can and can't make and what boundaries. So where to start at the very beginning, I think if it's part of your course offerings and your PhD advisor, or whoever's advising you on your program will allow you is to take a nice intro quantitative course if it's that new to you. That's just sort of where I would start. I think in the formal setting is a good place to start. Okay. And of course, YouTube channels like mine or StatQuest or some others are also good places to start. But we think quantitatively all the time, whether we realize it or not, right? So just thinking about viewing the world and realizing that quantitative views of the world and quantitative reasoning are not the only ways of looking at the world. So just keep that in mind as you go. All right. So if I can answer any more, just let me know. All right. Let's see. Pushpam, hello. What are the prerequisites for a budding stats enthusiast? I'm quite close in finishing my undergrad and planning to pursue a master's. So for a stats enthusiast, it's a little bit hard to define what that might be, but I would always encourage anyone who wants to be sort of a stats enthusiast or a quantitative type enthusiast is to not only look or read or study stats or quantitative stuff. Read widely. Read in your domain area. So, for example, the previous comment, was kind of coming from a finance background into a sort of a quantitative stats background. Well, if you're going to combine the two, go read widely. Go read it like a biography. Go read like a historical book. Like for finance, um, you know, I have lots of books on finance. So obviously, Too Big to Fail would be a this would be a good example. Like if I'm studying quantitative finance or something related to econometrics or something like that, I might read something like this because it gives me a wider view of the world, the story, the narrative of the discipline, in addition to all the quantitative work and all the stats work and stuff like that. So if you want to be an enthusiast, really in anything, it's depth, but it's also breadth, and to talk to people and to network and to look at these case studies throughout history and other events. And then, of course, you can apply that to the quantitative side of things to see what the relationships are and to see what these sort of black swan events are and stuff like that. So, there's multiple ways of approaching that. But if you're going to go into a master's degree, depending on what exactly you specialize in, I'll just encourage you to think widely. And when you pick courses in your program, I think to try to aim for breadth and depth in the courses you might take. So, all right. Good questions. Get a drink of water. How should I proceed for a career in data analytics and healthcare domain? Very similar to what I've been saying. So, there are many flavors of data analytics because data analytics is omnipresent in everything now. So there's data analytics, obviously, in healthcare and medicine. There's data analytics in the hard sciences. There are data analytics in journalism. There are data analytics in education. It's everywhere. So it's finding the nooks and crannies where you can marry the analytics to the healthcare and see how one informs the other. So, what are the pressing issues in healthcare that relate to data analytics now? What questions within healthcare can data help us answer? What um, pressing needs are there in terms of needing data we don't have? So understanding those sorts of facets and elements of the discipline that you are looking to work in. So you can start in a lot of places when you're looking for a career in data analytics, but I think it's a marrying of the quantitative and also the discipline, the discipline, which in this case is healthcare. Um, all right. So, hello, hello. Good to see you. Good to see you. Let's see. All right. I'm working professional in IT. If I want to get certification in statistics, what is the best certification course and from which institute? Hard for me to say. The only ones I know of, as far as if you're talking like a certification, that can mean a lot of things, like a Udemy certificate. Was that really certification? There are certain online places. Does Coursera do a stats certification? Might be somewhere to look. And then any place in the world nowadays, you can possibly enroll in a stat certification program. But off the top of my head, there are so many that I'm not all that familiar with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this down on my little notepad here and do some research. Stats cert programs and see. So I will look more into that. All right. I will look more. All right. Let's see what we got here. Dinesh, hello, my friend. Nice to see you for the first time live. It's good to see you. Your videos are very easy to grasp. Appreciate that. I would like to know how to get a statistical mind in terms of developing models. I'm from a science background. Well, being from a science background, depending on what science you're in, may already sort of help inform that sort of thought process. But a statistical mind is really, to me at least, it's open to interpretation. But I like to think backward in terms of, okay, here's a problem or a question, then work backward. So what is the problem in the question? What are the bounds of that problem or question? Then back up. Okay, well, what data do I need to help me answer that question or solve that problem? Step back. And then once that data is there, how do I collect it? How do I clean it up? What sort of analysis am I doing, which is obviously related to the question? So if the question I'm asking about, the problem I'm trying to solve is say about like a prediction, some sort of prediction in the future, then that's going to sort of put a bound around the statistical work I'm going to be doing that focuses on things like predictions, right? Or if I'm trying to make an inference, that would be something sort of different. If I'm trying to build some sort of basic machine learning model, what would that look like? What data do I need? What methods would I employ? What learners would be appropriate for that? So start with the question, start with the problem, and then work backward to determine what data you might need and the tools you might need and then the methods you might need to answer that question. So all right. VFlow. Hello all. Happy to catch you live for a change. Thank you. It is very good to see you and everybody else. Subscribe to your channel while I was at university taking undergrad classes on stats. It's been 2 years now and I want to start studying stat again. Good place to start. Good place to start is where you left off. So depending on what classes you had during that undergrad and kind of flip back through a book or whatever else, some sort of syllabus or curriculum and say what you recognize and what you don't recognize. And then you may have to go back and overlap some of your learning a bit to refresh your memory. So figure out what looks familiar and what doesn't look familiar and just pick up from there. And then You can go deeper into a topic. You can branch off into another topic depending on what you want to do. It really is up to you. There's no sort of right or wrong. But I think the best place to start is where you're at, intellectually and stuff like that, and then go from there. And just if something seems too easy or too familiar, then you can do something a bit more advanced. Or if you want to take your career in a certain direction, steer your learning, steer your inquiry in that sort of direction, while learning the more quantitative and stat stuff um, within that. It can be a good place to start. All right. Hooah. Instead of a statistics certification, there's a need for a thorough knowledge of the subject. Absolutely. You know, so, but I do want to say that, well, yes and no. Depending on what the person wants to do, I think deeper understanding, depending on how far you want to go into the math and stuff like that. That is sort of one route that a person might need. But for another person, getting a basic stat certification, just having general knowledge, kind of knowing how things work and what they are, that can be sufficient for that person. It's really up to each individual's needs, each individual's goals, what sort of learning is best for them. So some people just watch free content on YouTube and can learn a lot. Some people can spend thousands and thousands of dollars on an advanced degree and really learn very little. So it just depends on the effort and the goals of the person that wants to learn it, sort of in my view. All right. George, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Good to add your multiple regression playlist with model building with non-automated model building feature selection methods using AIC, BIC, partial F tests. Well, I have good news. The partial F tests I've already done. Go back and look at those sort of things. And then the AIC, AICC, and BIC is the video I'm releasing in a couple of days. So it is pretty much done. I just have to put in the transitions and animations and stuff like that, but it is pretty much 95% done. I'm going to leave here today and go up to the coffee shop and finish it up. Maybe record it today or tomorrow. But yes, AIC, AICC, and BIC. And anyone who does not know, the AIC is the Akihike Information Criterion. AICC is a version of that, corrected for smaller samples. And the BIC is the Bayesian Information Criterion. And along with like Mallow's C, which is the last video I did, those are ways to select the best model among best subsets regression. So that's what those are. But the video will be out very soon. All right. Let's see here. What else have we got? This one I have to look into. Amy, hello. You're welcome. Given some max diff data, but I don't know how to analyze them. I will have to look that. Can you give me more maybe information, or I might have to look that up. So right now, I cannot answer that off the top of my head, but I will do some research, as always. You are very welcome. Yeah. So asking about master's course and certification. Yeah. I will say too, like the certification stuff and the higher education sort of paths are obviously highly dependent on where you are, not only geographically, but the educational environment you're in. It's also dependent on the type of job or career you are in or want to do. So the famous saying, it depends. And this is sort of one of those, it depends, a good place to start in these sort of realms is to talk to other people who are in these fields, currently or have been in these fields, and ask them what was their path. So what did they find helpful? What would they have done differently? What would they have learned that they didn't get to learn? So just talking to people in these fields, in these disciplines that, have the experience and the luxury of hindsight of looking back on their educational experience and saying, hey, I would have done this differently. I would have done that differently. I would have learned this and not that, focused on this, but not focused on that. And they can give you some insights into how they got there. Is that gospel? No, but knowing from people who are actually in the field or have been through that path, you can learn a lot. So, you know, there's no need to cut your own swath through the forest when someone else has made a path 10 feet away that you can just kind of walk down as long as you can and learn from, their what they've done. So that's another thing you can do is just talk to people. Okay. All right. Um, you are very welcome, George. Absolutely. You are very welcome. You are very welcome. So, I have toyed with the idea of doing like a Udemy course, but that's a lot of time involved in that. And like I said, this stuff is not what I do full time. There's just no way to live doing this full time. So I've considered doing something like that, but it's the investment is just massive. And I know exactly how I'd want to do it and what I want to cover, but it's just so much time. Um, and here in the US, we don't have like universal health care or anything. So no job, no health care. It's really hard. And many other privileges that come, but that's one of the things that makes it hard to do YouTube full time. So, or anything like that full time. All right. Da-da-da. What other questions do you have? It's already 27 minutes. We do this fast. All right. Um, so in the last few minutes here, again, I like to keep these around 30 minutes unless it's like a special occasion. You can drop your chat in there. Oh, the one thing I do want to mention so any last minute questions, now's the time. So when we get those in the chat. So the channel, our channel, and I do call it our channel, meaning yours and mine, is about to hopefully cross a 250,000 subscribers. So 250,000 subscribers, which I never in a bazillion years would ever think that was remotely possible when I started this, but we're almost there. So I think for that sort of event, I'm going to do something special with a live stream. So thinking about what that might be, but I want to make my viewers and the people that actually do the hard work and kick ass and grind it out and sacrifice, put in the work to learn. I want to make you all part of that celebration. And I don't know exactly the best way to do it quite yet, but I'm thinking about how to do that. So we will do like a special event for the 250,000 subscriber mark. I hesitate even doing something like that because it's not how I am. I don't celebrate myself. It's not about me. It's about you all. It's about the channel and the good it does, hopefully, and the service that it provides. And you all are the real heroes of the channel, not me. And whatever we do for the 250,000, I want to make sure that some of you are a part of that. That should happen hopefully within the next few weeks. That's what it's on track. Probably around the end of September, the channel will cross the 250,000 subscriber mark. And I want to have you all part of it. So we'll figure that out. All right. Good question. After completing the 101 Stats 101 course that I have here on YouTube, the ever growing course, what book should we choose to practice stats with real world examples? So there are many, many places to find that sort of content for real world examples. There are many, many different things on the web you can find that have data along with them that you can follow along with examples. Obviously, you can find used textbooks that come with data sets that you can practice on. There are all kinds of online courses that provide data sets that you can sort of practice on. But of course, you can make your own. You can go out and get your own data. You can collect your own data. You can go out and find publicly available data. So things like, you know, all the financial data that's out there. So stock prices and other financial ratios and other things like that that you can get that's publicly available. If you're into sports, there is a ton of sports data that is obviously publicly available. And you can look at that data and try to answer questions about it, look for patterns, and you can go out and get your own. So there are many ways to find data and practice, examples. There's almost too many to even comprehend or name. It's really um it's really up to you on the path you want to take on that. So, but yeah, I'm a fan of um doing your own data. What funny thing, one time, um, I did like a um, I did a time series analysis of the amount of energy I was using in my house. So I went back and looked at all my electric bills and kind of like charted the use of electricity and stuff like that. Um, and it led me to make some changes. So instead of using my clothes dryer, I use a drying rack now. I don't run the dryer. I'm a lot better with turning things off and using less electricity in the house. And I wouldn't have done that had I not gone out and collected the own data I had access to in my own bills. So you can do stuff like that, and try to see if there's any pattern there, any seasonality, of course, and stuff like that. So yeah, lots of ways to approach this. And I encourage you to explore them all. Um, let's see here. All right. Microbiologist pursuing certification data science and start as an analyst and then proceed towards product manager. How should I? So I am in my day job. I am fortunate enough to work with one of the best product managers you could ever hope for, and also a good friend. And when I think about just how good this person is, what it's really about is obviously knowing the discipline. It is knowing your customers. It is having very high standards, understanding your industry, relationships, like I said before, and also understanding the ethos and the philosophy and sort of the North Star of the business or the industry you're working in. So being a product manager is very complex. There's a lot of things going on. You don't always control everything, which is very difficult. You don't always get what you want in terms of being a product manager. So you have to learn where to make trade-offs and what to things you can live with, minimum viable products, what is important. So when you're going in sort of that route, it's just important to take a wider holistic view of whatever it is you're doing. So product manager, yeah, it's about the product, but really the product is just an extension of the customer and the end user and understanding um, what it is they do. So, but as you're going along this education process, you can pick up and understand things that are going on within that product management space. So I am not a product manager, but I work very, very, very closely with our product manager. Um, so there are things that I do, and there are things that I see, understand from that proximity to being the product manager. So just go out there and learn. Talk to other product managers. Obviously, you see a pattern to this conversation. Part of going on into other fields and disciplines and advanced degrees and careers, whatever else that is, a big part of that, at least to me, is talking to people who are in those positions and asking them what works, what doesn't work. You can ask one of them to be a mentor. You find a mentor. So that can help as well. Um, let's see. All right. Do I have any team for doing projects? I'm not exactly sure I understand that question. Maybe you can elaborate on that. What you mean by any team for doing projects? I'd be happy to answer that the best I can. All right. Danish says, I'm beginning to learn data science. May I know what are the languages which should learn thoroughly? So if you're talking about, I assume you're talking about computer languages. So obviously, the two big ones are R or Python. It's really up to you which one you want to learn. They're different animals, in my opinion. R is more of a precision tool that is stats based at its core. That's why it was designed for. It's kind of like specialized in that sort of realm. Python is a more general programming course you can do a lot of different things with. All the stats and machine learning and stuff like that is one element of that, but it's a programming language. So some people find Python easier to learn at first because it's very readable, it's understandable. Some people prefer R because it's a bit more focused on what it does. I find that learning one makes learning the other easier because there are some conventions and patterns and structures that are similar to both. So just kind of go back and forth or find the one you like. Um, and go from there. I will say what I've noticed, at least in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that people are moving more towards Python. Unless there's a specific use case for R. I think most people are going the Python route from what I can see and what my feel out there, you know, in the ether. I kind of sense that Python's where most people are sort of going, and then they kind of maybe use R when they need to use R. So, um, yeah, but that's kind of where I would go if you're talking about languages. But I will say probably data science. If you're going data science specifically, Python might be the best choice of the two. All right. George, what is the schedule for STATURDAY? Every other Saturday? Good question. So as of right now, um, every other Saturday is probably the safest bet, unless I have something special going on. But I will say, once the school year starts kind of going, I might make it every Saturday, throughout the semester. So during the summer, I kind of went to every other week or kind of took some weeks off because school's not in session. So it just depends on my time and then the nature of what's sort of going on. I do usually take holiday weekends off, to have some personal time. But every Saturday or every other Saturday is the safest bet. I must always post the stream on Wednesday of the week I'm going to do it. So you have, 4 days notice that it's going to happen. So, all right. You are very welcome. Is operations research a good field to be in? What kinds of jobs do they have there? So OR, I think is a good field to be in. It's kind of one of those fields that kind of like aren't as flashy as some of the other things that we talk about now. I think I have it. You're gonna make me get out of my chair and do one of these things again. I'm here. Where did it go? I don't think I have it with me. Remind me to look back. I have a really good OR book somewhere. Don't know where it's at. But yes, so OR can be a great field to be in if that's what you're interested in. So what kind of jobs do they have? So OR people can work obviously in operations, ways to streamline and make more efficient the operational process to make it more cost efficient and time efficient and things like that. OR people can work in areas of safety as well. So there is just different ways to apply that degree. And sometimes you'll see like an operations research job posted, but it might be something related to that where you're just as qualified. So, it's operations research. And that's what they do. All right. All right. Doing well here. For ML and natural language processing, should we learn math first to understand the algorithms, concepts, or they both should go in parallel? There is no right or wrong answer to this question. It's really up to you. Lots of people aren't necessarily interested in the mathematics behind these algorithms, So, and I would probably put myself kind of in that camp. So if we've invented these things for computers to do, so we don't have to. So it's good to have a basic understanding of how these algorithms work and their assumptions and their limitations, how to interpret them and things like that. But really understanding the mathematics underneath them is a very specialized thing, and that's up to each person whether or not they want to go that deep. Because remember, it's all about opportunity cost. So every minute you spend learning the mathematics or something like that, the real deep into the weed stuff of an algorithm, that's 1 minute you give up learning something else. If you're going to, like a learning budget is what I call it. So you have to just pick and choose where you focus your time. And there's no right or wrong answer. So Most people will kind of do it in parallel. Some people are interested in the math. Some people are interested in just using the computer software to do the algorithm and get their output and interpret it, So, let's see here. Da-da-da. All right. George says, on average, companies use Python, professors use R. Yeah, maybe. I do tend to see R is more prevalent in academic institutions. And Python tends to be a more generalized. You'll see that out in the wild more than in academic institutions. So, all right. Good. A few more minutes. So, any last questions? Now is the time. We're going to wrap this up here in a minute. But I will say a couple of things before we go. If you are in the education space or whatever else, please refer those learners or share our channels. When I say our channels, I mean like my channel, StatQuest channel. There are lots of other, but those are the two. Me and Josh tend to get mentioned in the same conversations a lot, but there are others. The best things you can do for us is just to share our channels for people who might find them helpful. We're not out here to get rich, because you don't get rich on YouTube making stats videos. We're just here to help people. And the more people we can help, the more it means to us and the more people get helped. So just share our content with other people so they can help learn. When you can, a lot of us have little tip jars and stuff you can drop a few dollars in. That really helps us out. I use the tip jars. The tips I get on my tip jar, my PayPal tip jar, for captions. So I have my videos professionally captioned for people who don't have English as their first language, or who watch the videos in a space where they can't, listen to it. They watch the subtitles. So that helps. Even like $5. $5 is 4 minutes of captions. So anything that you can do to help us out, we do appreciate, of course. All right. You are very welcome. I don't really know the specific answer to this. How long can it take to land a job in machine learning, natural language processing? What strategy should we follow? The first question is really hard for me to answer because I'm not a specialist in the job market. There are sites and people who do that. So I think it's Towards Data Science does a great job. It's Carol Erminko does a good job in that sort of realm. Brandon Rohrer does a good job as well, sort of in the space of like finding jobs and kind of how to navigate that space. What strategy should you follow? The strategy I would follow is research what problems and questions companies are trying to solve with these techniques, and then work myself to the bone to understand those problems and how I might go about solving them. May not have all the answers right at first or anything like that, but it's really about solving a problem that a company or a business or whatever has. That's why they hire people. Like, they have a need within the dynamics of the business. They have different KPIs and goals and product roadmaps, but also within the limitations of time, cost and quality that they have to manage. So the strategy I would follow is, what are these businesses trying to do with ML or NLP? And then focus like on that path. If you want to be really sort of job focused, if you're just learning it, for your enjoyment or your own pleasure or whatever, might be a different focus. But if it's about a job, think like the company. Think like a manager in that company. Think like an industry leader in that industry, and then proceed in that direction. So, all right. Let's see here. So, is the course 101 enough to start with these sort of things? Absolutely. It depends on where you're starting from. For some people, this is where they need to start and really kind of build up, their skill set and their knowledge to where it's at, and then they can go from there. So For some people, like a 101 level, introductory type level is where they need to start. For other people, they can start maybe somewhere else, you know? So it just depends. There's no hard, fast rule about where to start, where not to start, and stuff like that. So really up to the individual person. All right. Okay. So we've been at this like over 45 minutes. Excuse me. So I think what I'll do is I'll wrap this stream up now. We will be live again in 2 weeks. That is September 11th, which unfortunately that is the day, but it is the Saturday. So we just kind of keep soldiering on the best we can. Yeah, and we'll come back with some more questions and answers, and we'll see where we're at after that. And hopefully we'll plan the 250,000 subscriber event or something. I'm not sure exactly what that'll be, but I want to make you a part of it, like I always have. So I'm going to wrap this stream up. I'm going to get in my car and go up to the coffee shop and make some more videos for all of you. So thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate your time. I know it's very valuable. And I wish you all a very happy and healthy rest of your day. And I will see you again soon. Keep learning. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.